3 years of dating. Ryan Stevens loved me deeply, giving me whatever I wanted, until his childhood friend returned to the country. On my birthday, he was setting off fireworks for his childhood friend. When I was sick, he stayed up late drinking with her. I could tolerate all of this, until Ryan Stevens got into a car accident while trying to save her and scarred his face. It wasn't a serious injury, but the scar covered the mole on his nose. Without that mole, he no longer looked like the person I once knew. I suggested breaking up, but Ryan Stevens still kept pestering me. My nominal Uncle James just happened to be nearby, watching me with an amused expression. Suo Nyen Nyen, your little boyfriend looks a bit like me, doesn't he? When I reached the hospital door, Emily Clark was beside Ryan Stevens, crying uncontrollably. It's all my fault. You got hurt because of me. Ryan Stevens's handsome face was now covered in bandages. He wiped away Emily Clark's tears with his finger. I'm your brother. If I don't save you, who will? 3 hours ago, Ryan Stevens was driving me back to Jong City from a neighboring city. We had just finished a 3-day couples trip. As we were about to exit the interstate, he received a message. Ryan Stevens, the person you care about the most is in my hands. If you're brave enough, come and chase me. Ryan Stevens's face changed drastically, and he opened the car window to look behind. A red convertible sped past, and Emily Clark was kidnapped by a man. The man provocatively flipped him the bird. That man was Ryan Stevens's arch-rival in tomorrow's racing competition. In an emergency, Ryan Stevens pulled over and threw me out on the roadside. Yu was kidnapped because of me. I have to go save her. Wait here for me. Before I could react, he stepped on the accelerator and sped off. As a race car driver trained since he was 12, Ryan Stevens was a skilled driver. He not only forced the car to stop but also ensured Emily Clark was unharmed. He himself, however, suffered a minor injury. After saving Emily Clark, he completely forgot about me still being on the interstate. Luckily, a kind passerby took me down from the road. Otherwise, in the freezing weather, without even my coat, the outcome would have been unimaginable. Emily Clark, crying, held Ryan Stevens tightly. Ryan Stevens hesitated for a moment, then placed his hand on her back and gently patted it. It's okay, your brother is here. In the hospital room, several of Ryan Stevens's teammates had arrived. This bastard, knowing he couldn't win against Nanjay in the race, dared to harm our sister-in-law. Exactly. Luckily she's fine. Ryan Stevens had only joined the new team a few months ago. His teammates knew about me, but had never met me. Now, they all assumed Emily Clark was his girlfriend. Ryan Stevens looked slightly embarrassed. Emily Clark is my sister, not your sister-in-law. Anyway, I rushed to save someone and forgot about my sister-in-law on the interstate. He looked upset, lifted the blanket, and was about to get out of bed. Emily Clark grabbed his hand. Nanjay, Nyen Nyen is an adult. She'll figure out how to get back on her own. You still have a race tomorrow. It's better to rest and heal properly. Ryan Stevens hesitated for a moment but insisted on getting up. No, I have to make sure she's okay first. This is bad. I just got her to calm down. He was referring to how we had argued a few days ago. It wasn't really an argument, more like my one-sided Cold War. Ever since Emily Clark came back a month ago, our relationship began to slowly deteriorate. Ryan Stevens said that Emily Clark was his neighbor's younger sister and had grown up calling him brother. As her brother, he had to take care of her. But on my birthday, he forgot to come home and went to set off fireworks with Emily Clark. When I was feeling sick, he stayed with her, drinking late into the night. Ryan Stevens kept mentioning Emily Clark's name more and more often. Again, he forgot our date because he promised to pick Emily Clark up from work. I gave him the cold shoulder. That's when the apology trip was arranged. I didn't expect that right after our trip ended, this new incident would arise. I sneered and pushed open the door, walking inside. As soon as I saw me, Ryan Stevens breathed a sigh of relief. You're back, thank goodness. Are you okay? I didn't answer, only gave him a cold look. To be precise, I was looking at the bandage on his nose. Ryan Stevens noticed my gaze and awkwardly rubbed his nose. I'm fine, just a small injury. Are you hungry? Let's go eat. Along with Yu and my teammates. His teammates glanced at me and then at Emily Clark, obviously embarrassed. Sister-in-law, hello. Only Emily Clark, when meeting my gaze, flashed a barely noticeable trace of displeasure. Emily Clark stood up, her tone filled with concern. How about we just eat at the hospital cafeteria? Nanjay has a race tomorrow. The teammates agreed. Emily Clark affectionately took my hand. Then I'll go order food with Nyen Nyen. Before Ryan Stevens could respond, she dragged me out of the room. As soon as we left the room, Emily Clark let go of my hand. Sophie Miller, did you see that? As soon as something happens to me, Nanjay forgets all about you. Guess when he'll break up with you? Hearing her provocative words, I raised my eyes. You really don't have to do this. Emily Clark gritted her teeth, her eyes filled with anger. What are you so smug about? If I hadn't gone abroad for a few years, do you think Ryan Stevens would still be with you? Sophie Miller, I know you're a young lady from a rich family. I can't compete with you in terms of wealth, but Ryan Stevens and I grew up together as childhood friends. We belong in the same world. Looking at the hatred in her eyes, I fell silent for a few seconds. I just wanted to say, you don't need to do this. I don't want Ryan Stevens anymore either. I turned and walked back into the room, heading straight to Ryan Stevens. Ryan Stevens's expression was surprised. What's wrong? Nyen Nyen? Don't want to eat hospital food? We can go out. I raised his chin with one hand. Ryan Stevens blushed slightly. We're still outside. I didn't speak and ripped off the bandage from his nose with my other hand. Hiss. As the bandage came off, I saw a scar. It wasn't serious, just a scrape, but it ran across the mole on his nose. I smiled softly. The last bit of hesitation in my heart vanished completely. Now you're nothing like him, I whispered. Ryan Stevens looked confused. But at that moment, Emily Clark walked in, her eyes red. I just apologized to Nyen Nyen, saying it was my fault for ruining your date. Who would have known? Nyen Nyen slapped me and called me shameless. I watched her performance coldly. Ryan Stevens frowned. You need to get over your jealousy. You was kidnapped. Should I just watch? I casually tossed the bandage aside, my expression calm. Let's break up. Sophie Miller, what do you mean? Ryan Stevens's face showed a hint of anger, and he tried to stop me. I didn't even look at him and walked out completely. I met Ryan Stevens on a New Year's Eve. At that time, I got separated from my roommate in the crowded crowd. My phone was off, so I couldn't hail a cab, and the subway had stopped running. I had no choice but to accept my bad luck and slowly walk home, 30 miles away. At that moment, Ryan Stevens rode up on his motorcycle, dressed in black gear, and stopped right in front of me. He took off his helmet, his slightly curled hair tousled, and flashed me a smile showing his canine teeth. Need some help? It was midnight, and here was a stranger, so kind-hearted. Normally, I would rather walk home than interact with him. But Ryan Stevens had such a face. His peach blossom eyes were sparkling, and there was a small brown mole on his sharp nose. It was uncanny how similar he looked to someone. How could there be two people in this world who looked so alike, even down to the position of the mole on their noses? For some strange reason, I got on Ryan Stevens's bike and let him take me, speeding through the city lights. The wind tousled my hair, and that New Year's Eve, I spent a pleasant night with this handsome young man. To be honest, in my 20 years of obedient life, that was a pretty good memory. Ryan Stevens and I exchanged contact information. I learned that he was a race car driver, and I agreed to go watch one of his races. Later, he confessed his feelings to me. I hesitated but eventually agreed. I definitely had feelings for Ryan Stevens, there's no doubt about it. Even if those feelings initially stemmed from him looking like James Cooper. That was my nominal uncle. The one I secretly had a crush on for over 10 years, but could never be with. Just as I pulled myself out of that memory, my phone suddenly rang. I answered the phone, and it was my mother's voice. Sophie Miller, I don't care where you are. Get back to the old house for the family gathering right now. James Cooper is back. James Cooper, he's back? I froze in place, and the phone slipped from my hand. When I was 15, James Cooper's parents passed away, and he was adopted by Old Master Song, becoming my nominal uncle. A few years ago, he was sent abroad to take over the Song family's overseas business. In the years since, James Cooper, who was once seen as that outsider, became the object of everyone's flattery. James Cooper not only managed the Song family's business well, but also started his own company. I thought I would never have any more interactions with James Cooper in this lifetime. Over the years, we had almost become people from two different worlds. But I never expected that he would return. At the old house, I immediately spotted the person I had been thinking about for the past few years. James Cooper, dressed in a black suit, sat in a chair, exuding an air of nobility. His peach blossom eyes were as cold as ever. The small mole on his nose made his face even more handsome. Seeing him after so many years, I suddenly realized. Actually, Ryan Stevens and James Cooper weren't as alike as I had thought. Old Master Song had many children, and my father wasn't particularly outstanding, nor was he well regarded. James Cooper was surrounded by people, all eager to curry favor with him. I was swallowed up by the crowd, making it hard even to get close. But the moment I stepped into the living room, James Cooper's gaze crossed half the room and landed directly on me. After a brief moment of eye contact, I quickly looked away. Calm down, Sophie Miller. James Cooper was never someone you could fantasize about, and now even less so. Even without the so-called blood relation, he's still your uncle. I maintained my composure until Old Master Song spoke at the dinner table. IU has done well in the past few years. James Cooper's expression remained unchanged, his voice cool. I've just been doing my part. Old Master Song laughed heartily. Good. You have your father's style, but you've also reached the age your father was when he had you. Do you have anyone in mind? Let me set you up. My hand on the table tightened slightly. Indeed, James Cooper was about to turn 27. He was at the right age for marriage and children. That's completely normal. James Cooper didn't answer directly, but calmly spoke. I have no plans for marriage yet, but what about the younger generation in the family? After all these years, I wonder if anyone is married? He said this while looking directly at me. All the relatives around us turned their gaze toward me. My mother chuckled awkwardly. Nien Nien does have a boyfriend, but they're not planning to get married yet. Although Ryan Stevens was already a well-known race car driver in John City, my parents no longer saw him as a suitable match for me. They expected me to find someone more fitting within my social circle, someone who could help my father's career. I didn't understand why James Cooper was asking me this. Getting married soon, I blurted out without thinking. When James Cooper heard this, he paused. Really? He smiled softly, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. It seems I, as your uncle, haven't been concerned enough about the family. Don't worry, I'll bring a big gift to your wedding. I lowered my gaze. Thank you, uncle. The meal stretched on for hours, making me restless. My mind kept drifting back to the past. When James Cooper first came to the Song family, I was just 10 years old. I stayed at the old house during those years, constantly chasing after James Cooper. They all told me he was my uncle. But to me, James Cooper was just a really handsome older brother. As I grew up and understood what uncle meant, I started calling him that like the other children. But deep down, my rebellious thoughts never disappeared. They only grew stronger. The year after the college entrance exams, I ran into James Cooper, drunk after a social event. He was lying on the sofa at the old house, completely alone. I peeked at him for a long time, then, when no one was around, I secretly kissed his lips. James Cooper's lips were cool and soft, just like him. Cold on the outside, warm on the inside. After the kiss, my heart raced, and I quickly ran away, as if something terrifying was chasing me. Aren't you going home? I snapped back to reality when James Cooper's voice came from beside me. I realized that most of the people at the old house had already left, including my parents, who had already left ahead of me. After I graduated from college, I no longer lived at home, and later, when I started dating Ryan Stevens, we moved in together. Today, I definitely couldn't go back to live with Ryan Stevens, so I planned to find a hotel. But with James Cooper, I couldn't say that. Oh, I'm going back to my boyfriend's place. James Cooper was silent for a while. How long have you two been together? I answered honestly. 3 years. James Cooper stayed quiet for a while longer. You got together in the second year after I left? I nodded. About that, yes. Back and forth, we had this strange conversation for a while, and I started feeling uneasy. Why was James Cooper asking all this? Could it really be out of concern for me as a younger generation? He never used to be this nosy. I'm going your way, let me give you a ride. When I got into James Cooper's Lexus, I was still in a daze. What do you mean, on the way? I hadn't even told him where I was staying. Yet, James Cooper knew exactly where to drive. After all, in John City, if James Cooper wanted to find something out, he had plenty of ways. Thinking I took my phone out of my bag wondering what to do, but then I thought Ryan Stevens should still be at the hospital with Emily Clark. When I go back later I'll gather my things. With that thought I relaxed. When I got to the neighborhood entrance James Cooper stopped the car. I picked up my bag. Thanks uncle, I'll head back now. I turned to open the car door but realized it was still locked. Uncle. In the dim light James Cooper's face was half hidden in the shadows. Let me take you upstairs, it's too late and it's a little dangerous, he said softly. By the way, you should introduce me to your boyfriend, it's only right for him to meet his elder before you get married. I stayed silent on the surface but inside I was panicking. What exactly was James Cooper trying to do? Calling himself an elder when he's only 5 years older than me? Haha, no need. But it seemed like James Cooper didn't hear me and drove the car into the underground parking lot and opened the car door. Lead the way. I walked ahead with a stiff face and entered the elevator praying Ryan Stevens wasn't home. When I opened the door I saw the place was pitch dark and I sighed in relief. James Cooper smiled faintly. Looks like your boyfriend isn't home. Does he often stay out this late? I never thought James Cooper would talk this much. Has he been so repressed in those years abroad that he's gone crazy? I turned on the living room light and was about to change my slippers when I was startled by someone sitting on the couch. Ryan Stevens was sitting on the couch with a cigarette in his mouth. There were several empty beer cans in front of him. When he heard me he looked up and his eyes were a little red. Sophie Miller, you still know how to come back. I'm telling you I won't agree to a breakup. He stood up, his chest heaving with emotion and anger in his eyes. Why do you have to make trouble with IU? I've said countless times she's just my sister. Sister. James Cooper's mocking voice came from behind. His gaze was as calm as ever but the corner of his mouth curled slightly. Anyan, looks like your relationship is quite spectacular. For some reason when James Cooper called me Anyan, I felt a strange itch in my ears. There was an unmistakable malicious undertone in his voice. He never used to call me Anyan. James Cooper did it on purpose. On purpose to go against Ryan Stevens' words about you. Sure enough, Ryan Stevens was triggered by his words. Who the hell are you to call her Anyan? James Cooper smiled darkly, stretched out his arm and pulled me into his embrace. My relationship with her is obviously one where I can call her Anyan. He rested his chin on my shoulder and provocatively looked at Ryan Stevens before whispering in my ear, Soon Yen Yen, I'm starting to feel like your little boyfriend looks a bit like me. This sentence made Ryan Stevens lose control. He took 2 steps forward, pulled me away and raised his fist to strike. What the hell are you babbling about? If anyone looks like anyone, it's you and me. The moment James Cooper moved toward me, my brain shut down. It wasn't until I saw Ryan Stevens angrily walk up that I realized what was happening. Ryan Stevens, stop. I blocked his motion. He's my uncle. Ryan Stevens' anger slowly faded and his fist froze in midair. But James Cooper on the other hand looked a little unhappy. Ryan Stevens scratched his head, extended his hand and apologized. So it's Nyen Nyen's uncle, my bad. I'm Nyen Nyen's boyfriend, Ryan Stevens. James Cooper glanced at his hand but didn't make a move. His eyes were cold and he spoke slowly. If I'm not mistaken, you two should be broken up, so there's no need to introduce yourself. By the way, I have no blood relation to Sophie Miller, just like you and your sister. After saying that, without waiting for Ryan Stevens' reaction, James Cooper grabbed my hand and pulled me out of the door. Uncle, what are you doing? I shook James Cooper's hand off, feeling confused and helpless. James Cooper was really off today. James Cooper glanced at his hand that I had pushed away and withdrew it. Weren't you quite rebellious as a kid, always chasing me, calling me James Cooper? Now you're calling me uncle. I lowered my gaze. I was young and didn't know better. Oh. James Cooper's voice suddenly got close. I looked up and realized his whole face was right in front of mine. His light-colored eyes had an unfathomable meaning in them. That summer you kissed me secretly at the old house, you didn't know better either. James Cooper's words made my brain short-circuit. What? My face stiffened as I tried to play dumb. The smile in James Cooper's eyes disappeared. What? Don't you remember? Sophie Miller, you're quite good at finding someone who looks like me. Watching too many novels and getting into substitute literature? Yes. This was the James Cooper I knew. Aloof. World-weary. Speaking as if his words had a bite. But he would boil medicine for me when I was sick and coax me to drink it 1 spoonful at a time. He would also coldly scold the younger kids who bullied me. When I was little, I was selfish at family gatherings. Hearing other kids call him uncle, I would go wild. James Cooper is mine. He's mine. My parents would awkwardly scold me, and after we got home they'd lecture me again. But James Cooper would secretly hold me in his arms when no one was around and comfort me. Okay Nyen Nyen, I'm yours, don't cry from now on, don't let anyone call me that, okay? But that James Cooper started to distance himself from me after I truly fell for him. And after I secretly kissed him a few days later, he left for America without a word. He didn't come back for 5 years. I felt a tear in my eyes and turned my head as my voice turned cold. So what if I kissed you secretly? It's been so long and the past doesn't count. I'm still not fully broken up with Ryan Stevens. Our relationship doesn't concern you. Uncle, you're overthinking the substitute thing. Ryan Stevens just happens to look like you. James Cooper's gaze remained on me, calm but filled with an underlying sadness. He pulled me into his embrace, his voice soft. Okay, it's a coincidence. I'm sorry. I was wrong. It's too late today, let me take you home to rest. Okay? I still followed James Cooper back. After all, I had no other place to go except home or a hotel. But I didn't really want to go back to my parents' house. Going back would mean more lecturing, marriage pressure, blind date pressure, and belittling every decision I've made. When we got home, James Cooper didn't say much. He poured me a glass of water and put it by the nightstand, then quietly closed the door. The next morning when I woke up, breakfast was ready on the table. James Cooper sent me a message saying he went to the company and reminded me to eat. The last time we messaged was on New Year's Day 5 years ago. He had sent me a Happy New Year. I didn't reply out of spite. After that, he stopped trying to reach out and I started trying to forget him. When I was with Ryan Stevens during the early passionate days of our relationship, I really thought I had completely let go of James Cooper. But meeting him again made the buried feelings break free. I realized it had all been a lie. James Cooper was like poison, rooted in every fiber of my being. I stared at the latest messages for a while before closing James Cooper's chat window. I noticed the other message notification marked 99+. It was Ryan Stevens. Since I left the hospital yesterday until just a minute ago, Ryan Stevens had been sending me messages. You said you'd attend every one of my races. Are you going back on your word? Sophie Miller. I trust that you don't have anything to do with that man from yesterday. Reply when you see this. Nyen Nyen, I'm about to go on stage. The race is at XX International Racecourse. Don't be late. I won't agree to break up. Let's talk. When I saw the messages, Ryan Stevens' race was already over. Weibo had already pushed out a new trending topic. The powerhouse young racer Ryan Stevens has won 3 consecutive junior championships. Ryan Stevens of Jong City team claims the national championship. Ryan Stevens and his childhood sweetheart ship them. On the trending list, Ryan Stevens took up most of the space. I was about to exit when I accidentally tapped the last trending topic. The first photo that popped up was of Ryan Stevens with Emily Clark. In the photo, Emily Clark had her back to the camera while Ryan Stevens stood on the podium bending down. From the angle, it looked like they were kissing. Many comments called it adorable. Oh my god, you're the first person I want to kiss after the race. So romantic. Seems like the girl is Ryan Stevens' childhood friend. They reunited after 3 years abroad. It's so touching. I'll attend every race with you and watch you win championships. Who understands this kind of bond? Looking at these comments, I couldn't help but smile bitterly. If anyone had really been with Ryan Stevens through every race, it was me. From regional leagues to national championships, I had been there every step of the way. Before the race I would practice with him, maintain the car. Afterward I comforted him after every loss, celebrated every success. When I was with Ryan Stevens I did have feelings for him, but I had taken this relationship seriously, and fulfilled every duty a partner should fulfill. Ryan Stevens and Emily Clark's ship was trending more than his championship victory. The heat surged to the top. Many confused netizens felt it was strange. Wait, who is this? This topic isn't even that big to trend. I was starting to wonder when James Cooper's chat window popped up on my phone. Buy another 100,000 worth of heat to keep the topic trending. James Cooper. James Cooper withdrew a message. Me. James Cooper. Never mind. I sent that by mistake. James Cooper. Are you awake? Don't forget to eat breakfast. I'll be back after I finish some things at the company. You can rest at home. Realizing James Cooper's thoughtful gestures, I felt a little helpless. The grievances and anger I had been holding in yesterday started to dissipate. Thinking about it, James Cooper going abroad wasn't his choice. At that time he had just been adopted by Grandpa Song, and was indebted to the Song family. Grandpa told him to go abroad, so he couldn't stay in the country. But now, why did James Cooper care so much about my relationship with Ryan Stevens? I had a faint guess, but I didn't dare to think too much about it. I was afraid that if I thought too much I'd overestimate my importance. After all, I'd been in love with James Cooper for so many years. Suddenly, I jolted awake and stood up. Last night, I went back to the place I used to live with Ryan Stevens, thinking I'd collect my things. But when James Cooper dropped me off, we happened to run into Ryan Stevens. I hadn't packed my stuff yet. There was still my diary on the bedside table. I started writing that diary when I was a teenager, mostly about James Cooper. I didn't care about the other things, but that diary, I had to get it back. Thinking about this, I hurriedly changed clothes and went downstairs to grab a cab. Once I was in the car, I hesitated for a moment, but still sent James Cooper a message. I'm going back to pack a few things. I'll be back soon. For some reason, I felt like I should tell James Cooper. What if he comes home and sees I'm not there? He might worry. After sending the message, I muted my phone. Returning to the place I used to live with Ryan Stevens, my feelings started to change. Now, my feelings for Ryan Stevens were complicated. On the one hand, we had really been in a relationship for 3 years. Ryan Stevens did look a lot like James Cooper, but their personalities were totally different. James Cooper seemed reserved, but he had a bit of a dark side. Ryan Stevens was more outgoing and easygoing. After a few years of dating, I occasionally noticed their resemblance, but deep down, I had come to see Ryan Stevens as his own person. It wasn't easy for me to admit, but after 3 years, it was hard not to feel a little sad about my past crush. But once James Cooper returned, my long-hidden feelings for him came rushing back. In my heart, there wasn't much space left for feeling sorry for Ryan Stevens. I opened the door, wanting to quickly run to the bedroom and grab my diary. But when I opened the door, I found the diary lying open on the floor. Ryan Stevens was sitting on the floor by the bed, covering his face with his hands. Hearing me, Ryan Stevens lowered his hands and looked up at me. "You're back. Sophie Miller, what's this?" He pointed at the open diary next to him. I quickly walked over, picked up the diary, and checked it carefully. It was fine. Seeing my reaction, Ryan Stevens let out a bitter laugh. "Is it that precious to you? This diary must be really important to you, huh? The photo inside, that's James Cooper, isn't it?" I was silent for a moment, then pulled out the photo from the diary. It was of James Cooper and me when we were 17. James Cooper's eyes were distant, and the small brown mole on his nose stood out. Ryan Stevens gave a wry smile, raised his hand, and touched his own nose. "I knew it, you were acting strange that day at the hospital. Because my nose was injured, I didn't look like him anymore, and you were upset, right?" I didn't answer, just quietly put the diary back in its place. Ryan Stevens stood up and walked over to me, his eyes filled with sadness. "Say something, Sophie Miller, are you too scared to admit it? For all these years, have I just been a substitute in your eyes?" At this point, I couldn't stay silent any longer. "Did you read the whole diary?" Ryan Stevens' voice was filled with anger. "Yeah, I read it all. I saw how much you liked James Cooper, how you couldn't let go. You've been writing in that diary for so long." I looked up calmly. "But didn't you notice? I haven't written anything in this diary for the past 3 years. Ryan Stevens froze, his anger faltering. "What do you mean by that? You're saying that after we got together, you didn't write in this diary?" I nodded, my expression calm. "That's right. And in these 3 years, I haven't opened this diary either." That was the truth. For the past 3 years, I had kept the diary with me. When I moved in with Ryan Stevens, I put it in the bedside table, but it was never locked. But after being with Ryan Stevens, I really hadn't opened it. From the moment I agreed to be with Ryan Stevens, I had hoped to move on from my obsession with James Cooper. Over the years, I sometimes thought I had let go. But after Emily Clark came into the picture, Ryan Stevens' behavior toward her, with no boundaries, made me disappointed again. I realized I was starting to think about James Cooper again. When I was younger, whenever I was bullied, James Cooper would hold me and tell me no one would hurt me with him around. When Ryan Stevens left me on the interstate, I was actually scared. I kept thinking, if only James Cooper were here. Ryan Stevens' eyes started to show some hope. "So, Nyen Nyen, you do like me, don't you?" He pulled me into an embrace, his voice full of joy. "I knew it, you must like me, Nyen Nyen. I don't care about your past, I just want you to like me now." But I gently pushed him away. "Ryan Stevens, I liked you, but not anymore. Since you started disappointing me again and again for Emily Clark, it's over." Ryan Stevens was taken aback. "But Emily Clark is just a little sister." I pulled out my phone and showed him a photo I had seen on Weibo. Ryan Stevens, no brother kisses his little sister. When I secretly kissed James Cooper when I was 18, I realized I didn't want him to just be my Uncle James. Emily Clark doesn't see you as a brother either. Otherwise, she wouldn't have repeatedly provoked me in private. I looked into Ryan Stevens' eyes, speaking seriously. "Ryan Stevens, let's break up. You and Emily Clark are perfect for each other. This way, you can take care of her without any guilt. Always be there for her." This time, Ryan Stevens really seemed panicked. "No, that photo, I did it on purpose to make you mad. We didn't actually kiss. I don't know what Emily Clark told you, but I've told her a long time ago that I see her as a little sister." Ryan Stevens looked at me desperately, but I remained indifferent. "Nyen Nyen, I won't do anything you don't like anymore, okay? Don't break up with me, please." I pulled my hand away from his and took a few steps back. "Ryan Stevens, it's really over. I don't want to go back. I don't believe you didn't notice Emily Clark's feelings for you during that time." Ryan Stevens shuddered slightly, lowering his eyes. How could he not see Emily Clark's feelings for him? He was just pretending to be clueless. He thought my feelings for him would excuse everything. But he didn't expect me to leave without a second thought. I left Ryan Stevens's house without looking back. Just as I reached the entrance of the neighborhood, I saw James Cooper rushing toward me in a panic. James Cooper, you? Before I could finish, James Cooper pulled me into his arms. He was breathing hard, holding me tightly. Why did you go back? Why did you go see him? You really like him that much, huh? I was afraid I might scare you, so I tried to take it slow, but you went to find him. I struggled out of his embrace and looked into his eyes. James Cooper's eyes were full of suppressed desire and anger, making me feel uneasy. Sophie Miller, I've spoiled you too much. In the next moment, he grabbed my chin and kissed me. Our lips intertwined, and only when I started to feel breathless did I push against James Cooper's chest. Dizzy from the kiss, I looked up at his eyes. Wait, let me catch my breath for a second. James Cooper pursed his lips, kissed my forehead again. I won't let you be with him again. Seeing his expression, I couldn't help but smile. Who told you I'm getting back together with Ryan Stevens? I just went back to get something. James Cooper looked suspicious. What thing? I raised my hand and shook the diary I was holding. This. Do you want to read it? In the Lexus, James Cooper sat in the driver's seat, flipping through every page of my diary, reading it seriously. He was reading so intently, his gaze more focused than when his subordinates reported quarterly financials. Seeing him like this, I felt a little embarrassed and coughed lightly. All right, that's enough. I still have my pride. James Cooper chuckled softly but didn't stop reading. No, I'm going to read all of it. Sophie Miller, you were only 15 when you wrote your first entry, right? You were so bold. Oh, so you liked me even back then? My face turned red, and I snatched the diary back from him. Stop looking. James Cooper didn't resist, letting me grab it back. With one hand on the wheel, he looked at me with a smile in his eyes. We stared at each other for a long time, and I turned my head away, blushing. So what if I liked you? You're not that much older than me. You really think of yourself as my Uncle James? Liking you is completely normal, right? This time, James Cooper fell silent. After a long pause, his voice came softly, right by my ear. Nien Nien, I'm sorry. I turned and saw the hint of sadness in James Cooper's eyes. If I had spoken up sooner, if I had handled the business overseas better, 5 years was too long. You were too young at the time. I was scared that you'd confuse love with family. I didn't want to mislead you, but I also didn't want to hear you call me Uncle James. James Cooper reached out and gently touched my cheek. I was quiet for a long time, then softly whispered, James Cooper. James Cooper gave a faint smile. Nien Nien, do you still like me? Or do you want to be with Ryan Stevens? In his eyes, I saw a glimmer of uncertainty. I threw myself into his arms, holding him tight. I like you. I don't want you to be my Uncle James. You're just James Cooper, the person I've liked since I was little. James Cooper hugged me back, his voice trembling. Nien Nien, I've missed you so much. My eyes became a little teary. It felt so good. James Cooper liked me too, and that was all that mattered. 7 days later, Ryan Stevens sent me a message saying he had accepted the invitation from the International Racing Club. I'm sorry, Nien Nien. I know I didn't cherish your love. You were right. I know exactly how Emily Clark feels about me, but I didn't keep my distance from her. I won't contact Emily Clark again, and I won't return to China. If you want, you can come see me race in a country. One day, on my way home from work, I ran into Emily Clark. She had come specifically to find me. When she saw me, there was a flash of resentment in her eyes. It's all your fault, Sophie Miller. Ryan Stevens is gone abroad. He told me he won't take care of me anymore. Why is that? We've been childhood sweethearts. Why do you get to occupy such a big place in his heart? I looked at her, slightly furrowing my brows. Emily Clark, is Ryan Stevens really that important to you? You're an accomplished graduate who's studied abroad. Why waste so much time and energy on him? The kidnapping on the interstate. That was you intentionally letting that guy tie you up, right? Emily Clark's eyes flashed with panic. How did you know? No, you're just guessing. You have no proof. I looked at her with a hint of pity. Emily Clark, for me, figuring out this kind of thing is easy. If you don't want me to send the evidence to Ryan Stevens, don't show up in front of me again. Emily Clark didn't say anything more. She just stood there, watching me walk away. A few months later, my mom once again brought up the topic of marriage. James Cooper found out and, using the excuse of a family gathering, called all the relatives from the Song family together. In front of everyone, he announced that we were in a relationship. since James Cooper was technically my Uncle James. This news stirred up quite a storm among the relatives. But unexpectedly, the first person to stand up in support of us was Grandpa. He smiled warmly at us. I always said, when I asked Yu to go abroad for business, he didn't look happy at all. Turns out it was because of Nyen Nyen. Well, Yu was entrusted to me by his parents when they passed away. He doesn't have blood relations with our Song family. I'll move James Cooper's household registration out so the two kids can focus on their relationship. Just like that, we easily gained the full support of the family. The most important thing was that James Cooper had power, and the Song family didn't dare say anything more. James Cooper and I got engaged, and a year later, we held our wedding. Fate had played us, separating us for so long. But strangely, after all these years, we took that step toward each other. James Cooper smiled as he slipped the ring onto my finger. It's okay, Nyen Nyen.